You ever wish you just had, I don't know, a mental toolkit to see the world a bit more clearly, to finally get why things happen the way they do? Well, it turns out there's this ancient text, the Sammādiṭṭhi Sutta, that offers exactly that. So today, we're going to dive into its core teaching, this really powerful concept for understanding reality called right view. All right, so let's get into it. The term right view. I mean, it sounds kind of simple, right? Like just having the correct opinion. But as we're about to find out, it's way, way deeper than that. It's this profound, multi-layered understanding of how reality actually works. It's not so much about a belief you hold, but more like a lens, a whole new lens you see everything through. So the whole story comes from this text. And you've got this group of students who approach a really famous teacher, Sāriputta, and they've traveled, a long way because they get that this one concept is absolutely crucial. They basically say, please explain this to us. And his explanation, well, it unfolds in these amazing layers, starting with the super practical and getting more and more profound. Now, you might think he'd start with some big abstract philosophy, but he doesn't. He gets right down to the most immediate practical thing there is, our everyday actions. This first layer of right view, it's all about understanding what's skillful and what's not. So here it is, our first definition. At its most basic level, right view is just the ability, that clear-eyed ability, to see the difference between actions that create harm and confusion and the ones that lead to well-being and clarity. You could almost call it a kind of ethical intelligence. And the text is super direct about this. It lays out really clear examples of what's unskillful. Things like causing harm, taking what isn't yours, deception. And the skillful actions, it's pretty simple, actually. It's just choosing not to do those things. The whole framework is built on this idea of conscious restraint. But of course, right view goes deeper than just what you do. It's about understanding the source, the why behind the actions. The text points to 3 root causes for pretty much all unskillful behavior: greed, hatred, and illusion. And on the flip side, the roots of all the good stuff, the skillful actions, are their direct opposites, non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. Or generosity, kindness, and clarity. Okay, and as Sāriputta keeps explaining, this really cool pattern starts to emerge. He uses this brilliant 4-step method for everything. First, what is it? Second, where does it come from? Third, what's its end? And fourth, how do you get there? This is such a powerful framework. It's like a diagnostic tool for reality. And honestly, it's the key to understanding everything that's coming next, so definitely keep it in your back pocket as we go. All right, let's peel back another layer and see how this whole thing builds. The students, they're not satisfied just yet. They want a deeper explanation, so they ask for more. And what does Sāriputta do? He takes that same 4-point method and applies it to the most central, universal human experience there is, what the text calls dukkha, which we usually translate as suffering or dissatisfaction. And what we get is this brilliant illustration of the famous 4 noble truths. See how it fits the pattern? Right view at this level means getting these 4 points. The phenomenon? That's suffering, dukkha. Everything from the big, painful stuff in life to that subtle feeling that something's just off. Its origin? That's craving. That relentless, nagging thirst for things to be different. Its cessation? Well, that's the end of that craving. And the path to get there? Hold that thought. We're definitely coming back to that. But the students, they're really digging in. They ask again, is there another way to understand this? And this question, this leads us to the deepest layer of all. Here, right view becomes the ability to see reality not as a bunch of separate, static things, but as this dynamic, flowing, interconnected process of cause and effect. So to really, truly get suffering, Sāriputta doesn't just name the cause and call it a day. No, he goes full detective on it. He starts to trace the whole process backward, following the chain of causality link by link, just to show how one thing inevitably, unstoppably leads to another. And he starts with the most obvious, the most undeniable form of suffering there is: aging and death. I mean, that's kind of the end of the line, right? But for that to even happen, something else has to happen first. So, what's the prerequisite? What has to be in place for aging and death to occur? The answer, of course, is birth. You can't age and die if you were never born. Simple enough, right? That seems pretty straightforward. But this investigation is far from over. He keeps going. For birth to even be possible, what condition needs to be there first? And Sāriputta just keeps tracing this chain back and back, through these deep concepts like existence and becoming, that really deep underlying drive to exist in a certain way. He's showing how each and every stage isn't some isolated event. It's a necessary consequence of the one that came right before it. It's exactly like a line of dominoes falling, one after the other. So as he traces this whole web of causality further and further back, what does he find? What's the engine fueling this entire process? You guessed it, clinging and craving. We are right back to the diagnosis we got in layer 2, the origin of suffering. It's all one giant interconnected system. And this is the real game changer. The most profound level of right view is seeing this entire interconnected process in action. It's that deep down understanding that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists in a vacuum. Everything arises because of something else. Okay, so let's take a breath. We've got these 3 layers of right view, right? We have the ethical foundation, we have the core diagnosis of suffering, and then we have this incredible web of causality. But through every single one of those explanations, did you notice the one thing that never changed? That 4th step of his method, the path to the end, it was always the same. I mean, just think about that for a second. It doesn't matter what the problem is. Unskillful actions, that feeling of dissatisfaction, or getting totally tangled up in the whole chain of existence, the solution, the way out, is identical. This points to this powerful, unified theory of freedom. It suggests the path isn't some separate thing from the problems, it's the direct antidote to their root causes. And here it is, the moment you've been waiting for, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the path to the end of suffering. It covers every single part of life, our intentions, our words, our actions, our focus, the whole shebang. But take a really close look at the very first step on that list. And here is the beautiful paradox of the whole thing. The entire journey to fully develop right view begins with right view. It's both the starting gate and the path itself. You start with just a little bit of clarity, and that allows you to walk the path, which then, in turn, creates even more and deeper clarity. It's this amazing upward spiral. So what's the ultimate promise here? What's the point of all this? Well, Sāriputta repeats this powerful line after every single explanation. He says that by getting these principles and walking this path, you make an end of suffering in this very life. This isn't some promise for a future life or a reward after you die. It's about a tangible result that's available to you right here, right now. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through Sāriputta's masterclass on how to see clearly. And it leaves us with a really potent question to carry with us, into the rest of our day. If the deepest wisdom is really about seeing the world not as a bunch of separate things, but as one interconnected process, what's just one thing in your life, a problem you're facing, a relationship, even a success, that you could see differently today if you looked at it through that lens?